tomorrow, and we are picking up here in this video on number 12. Okay, so this is the one that's using images instead of just like your normal, like a point or like your typical polygons. Okay, this is just getting across. You can use our transformations on any image. Okay, so we can do it with smiley faces and arrows and lightning bolts. It doesn't matter. Okay, we just have to understand the concept of the different transformations. So in number 12, it says, in each figure, X is parallel to Y. So these lines are parallel. So they're just saying that as like a way to look at the image to make sure that it's a parallel line. Determine how the third figure, okay, so there's 3 in a row, how the third figure is derived from the first. So it's a 2-step process, okay? You have your pre-image, okay, and then one transformation, and then a second transformation. Does everybody understand? That's why there's 3. Okay, so it's like if you called this is your pre-image, the first transformation, the second transformation. And we want to match those 2 transformations that are happening, okay, to these choices here. So all of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're going to put A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, we're going to match these. Okay, so in number 1, okay, this arrow from the pre-image to this middle one, it's facing the same direction. So the orientation did not change. Remember, when we talk about reflections and rotations, those typically change the orientation of the image, meaning it's going to be facing a different direction. Okay, a translation maintains or preserves the orientation. So because this looks like it's oriented the same, it looks like it was just slid up, right? Y'all agree? So they slid it up and over. Okay, so that's a translation. And then to get from this middle one to this one, that is not a slide. That is not a reflect, because if I flipped it, it would be pointing to the left, wouldn't it? How does it go from pointing right to pointing up? That's a rotate. They had to turn it. Okay, so we slide and turn. So that's translate and rotate. Okay, so it's a translation followed by a rotation. Okay, and I don't know if you want to circle that or like maybe mark it out. So we've used B. Man, I'm really good at drawing straight lines. We've used B. Okay, translate, okay, or slide, then turn. So they slid it up here and then they turned it. Good. Number 2, to get from the first to the second, it's a mirror image across that line X, isn't it? What's a mirror image? A reflection. Okay, you look at a reflection in the mirror. So this is a reflection to start. Okay, so C and D both start with reflection. Okay, and then to get from this middle one to the last one, the choice is, was it just sliding, translating, or was it rotated? Was it turned? So to get that cutout from being in the top left to being in the bottom right, you can't just slide it over. You had to turn that. Okay, so this was a reflect, okay, or a flip. Remember, reflect and flip mean the same thing. So this was reflect and then rotate, or flip, then turn. That was D. Okay, the smiley faces, okay, the eyes are on top. Now it's at an angle. So that had to be turned, didn't it? Rotated. So this is rotated, or turned. That is hard to see that yellow. That in black. So we turned it. Okay, and then the orientation from the second to the third is exactly the same. We just split it up. So it's a rotate and then a slide, a turn and then a slide. Okay, so another word for slide, why is my pen not working? Is translate. So this is a rotation followed by a translation. So that's F. All right. Number 4, this is flip, isn't it? From the first to the second. So a flip and then a slide. It kept its orientation from 2 to 3. So they flipped it over and then slid it up. So that's a reflection and then a translation. So that is C. All right, and then here, the orientation from the first to the second is the same. So that means it was just sliding over. So they slide it. And then from the second to the third, they didn't rotate it, they flipped it. Okay, so slide and then flip, that's translate, then reflect. So that's A. All right, last but not least, I think process of elimination, we know it's going to be E, but let's take a look at it. Okay, so we've got this circle with the line through it. Okay, now that line through it is at a different angle, a different orientation. So this has been turned or rotated. So they turn it, and then it's again at a different angle. Okay, and it's the opposite angle because it has been flipped or reflected. So this one is a turn, then flip. So that's rotate and reflect. We feel okay about those? So when you're doing this in Aware, I think it's like, I don't know if it's a drag and drop or how they have it set up, but it's you're matching these A, B, C, D, E, F with these images. All right. And actually, before I jump to the next one, when we're talking about this, if you forget, I am giving you this formula chart on the test. This is what I posted during the quiz at the beginning of the week as well. This has an image, a graphic to show you a rotation is a turn, a reflection is a flip, a translation is a slide, and then the actual rules for the ordered pairs are on here. So reflections, depending on what your line of symmetry is. Translations are adding or subtracting values to your X and Y. Okay, and so if it's X, if you add to X, you go to the right. If you subtract from X, you go to the left. Subtract from Y, you go down. Add to Y, you go up. Okay, and then your rotations, clockwise versus counterclockwise. And just a reminder that when you see that negative, that minus, okay, in any of these, that's just telling you you need to change to the opposite sign. It doesn't mean it's going to be negative. Okay, if it started out positive, now it will be negative. But if it started out negative, now it will be positive. It means change the sign. Okay, so as you don't have to have this stuff memorized, that will be on the formula chart, which will be linked in the test, and I'll give you a paper copy during the test. All right, so on number 13, it says on the coordinate grid, a triangle with vertices A, B, C. So that on my screen, I have it in color here, is in blue. So that's the original image, is ABC there in quadrant 2. It says it's transformed to A prime, B prime, C prime. That's this green one down here. If it's hard to see those little prime markings, okay, maybe label them as pre-image. and image. Where that's our vocabulary. The pre-image is what we started with. The image is after the transformation. They want to know which transformation occurred. So this is similar to the one we just asked with the random pictures, but now it's with a polygon. It's with a triangle. Okay, so see this A was here on the bottom left of the triangle. Now it's down here at the bottom. Okay, if this had been just slid down, okay, that A would still maintain its orientation in the bottom left of the triangle. Okay, there would still be a horizontal side of the triangle at the bottom, and there's not. So this was not a translation, which that wasn't even a choice, but I want to explain it. Okay, a reflection is a flip. So if I flipped this over the x-axis, this point A right now would be here. If I just flipped it over the x-axis, right? Okay, if I flipped it over the y, I'm right now 5 units from the y-axis. I go 5 units over here. So that would be flipping over the y. So it's not a reflection over the x or y axis. You can eliminate those. Okay, we know it's a rotation. You just have to determine this, the degrees. So how far is it rotated and in what direction? Now remember, we talked about 180 degrees. It doesn't matter if it's clockwise or counterclockwise. 180 is half a circle. So if you go 180 degrees, you would end up in the opposite quadrant, whether you went this way or this way. If I do half a circle, that's where I end up, right? So it's not 180 degree rotation. Okay, 90 degrees clockwise, or excuse me, counterclockwise. So the clock goes this way, tick, 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 tick. So counterclockwise is going this way. So I'm coming this way. 90 degrees would be a quarter of a circle, and that's where it would put me. Does that make sense? So that's the one that gets me to the green triangle from the blue one. All right, let's flip that page. Number 14, they give us triangle JLK. Now this is the one I mentioned, the paper version that I printed for you. The values here were different than the question in Aware. So I have fixed them on mine. So this reads different than yours. Okay, so I want you to change, if you're looking at the paper, I want you to adjust it to what this says. Okay, but if you're looking at it on the Aware screen, you see this problem. It's correct in Aware. Okay, so the triangle is graphed correctly on your paper version, but the description of the change is incorrect on the paper. Okay, so you do need to fix that. So it says JKL, which is graphed here, will be translated 3 units right. So to the right, 3. And then it will be translated 2 units down. So down 2. Then reflected over the y-axis, what will be the coordinates of point L? You can do this 2 ways. You can do this on the graph. Okay, so I could look at point L. Okay, that's my pre-image point. And I could actually make these changes. So I could go right 3. 1, 2, 3. And then down 2. 1, 2. Put me here. Then I would need to reflect that over the y-axis. So here's the y-axis. So if I'm reflecting across that y-axis, that point right here is 9 away from the y-axis. So I have to go 9 in the opposite direction. So it would put me over here. So that's where L double prime would end up, and you could list the coordinates. Or if it asks you to plot that point or select it, that's what you should be selecting. Okay, you could also do this in the more algebraic approach where you could write your rule. You could say, okay, XY will become what, based on the translation, says write 3, so you're adding 3 to X, down 2 means you're subtracting 2 from Y. So you could do this with your original point L, which is 6, 8. So you could take 6, and when you add 8, or excuse me, add 3, what's 6 plus 3? 9. Okay, and then for the Y, I would need to subtract 2. What's 8 minus 2? 6. So that would, that's where I would end up L single prime. That's over here. That's where I end up after the translation. Then I need to do the reflection. Now the reflection rule says take X, Y, and it's reflect over the Y axis. When you reflect over the Y axis, the Y doesn't change, just the X does. So that's the rule. So that means if I apply that rule, that's where L started, became L prime. So now I need to just change the X. So 9 needs to become -9. The Y does not change. That's what the rule says. Y stays the same. So it stays a 6. So that's L double prime. So you can get it doing the rules, or you can get it graphically, whatever you prefer. Either way, you end up at this point at -9, 6. And I think, does it ask you to click on the graph, or does it ask you to type in the coordinate? Click on the graph, yeah. So maybe if you would want to do that one graphically. But if you did it algebraically, that's fine, and then you can go find that point on the graph. Good? All right, number 15. Number 15 asks us, that is overlapping. Is it overlapping on yours? Or can you see the question? Does anybody have their review in front of them? Yeah, on your paper review. Oh yeah, it's printed like that where you can't see the question. Okay, that's my bad. Let me pull it up really quickly in Aware and I'll copy it over here. If you're looking at it in Aware, that's fine. You can see the question. This was just a mistake making the copies, I guess. It got shifted on top of each other. Oh, it's not messed up on yours? Okay. Maybe it is. When I fixed that mistake on 14 and edited mine, that probably messed it up. So let me. It's taking a sec to open. Okay, here we go. All right. Probably have to, I know the bell's about to ring for lunch, so I'll probably do this one in the next video. And see the problem there. So I'll stop this video here and we'll pick up there when you get back from lunch and I'll start making the next video.
Where is my